Hey, Dan here. Look, I know this year has been chaos, but just 1 second of your time before the game starts. On Saturday, December 5th at noon Central Standard Time, we'll be having our first official Session 1 with the whole team together. That stream will be dedicated to the Direct Relief's COVID-19 response charity. All donations and profits made during that game will go straight to helping those suffering from the effects of COVID and also to the doctors and nurses out there on the front line every day. On top of that, we will be gathering subscribers to the Twitch channel and putting them into a drawing for free sets of dice and even a free D&D book, digital or physical, your choice. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything seems pretty interesting. So, get down to our Twitch channel and give it a follow to be notified when we go live next. Sorry about that. Now, on with the video.
The raucous sounds of joy and falling coin were the norm for the traveling group of performers that Líadáin called family. Líadáin had spent the entirety of her life in perpetual travel, wandering Faerun. As the only granddaughter of Nat1 Fallon, the matriarch of the Maidroch players, her life on the road was the only one she had ever known. Performing to peasants and lords, from large deafening crowds to small intimate ones, performing is etched into her bones. To sway a crowd with her words, her voice, her playing, to tell a story that can cause a torrent of emotions within the heart. There was nothing better. Well, there might have been one thing better. You see, despite the fact that Líadáin had done nothing but roam for her entire life, she had not been allowed to experience the world. Macher Hida would never allow her to be alone, ever. She had people who were paid, instructed, bullied even, to follow her at times. Rarely was she able to lose them, though Líadáin is a tricky one, when she wants to be. One of those rare times happened to be near Waterdeep. They were playing at the request of the Open Lord at the time. During a performance, she was able to slip her followers and escape her sheltered ways. Líadáin was free. She was finally able to carve her own path. Since then, she has wandered as far and as wide as the road would take her. Whilst playing at a small tavern in Sembia, she heard of a merchant caravan heading to the frozen north. Hearing about the lovely colors that sparkle in the sky, Líadáin bartered her way in. After the arduous journey through the mountains and several 10 days of job hopping, Líadáin has now found herself amongst those trapped in Icewind due to the everlasting night. Will she get to roam the lands as she once had dreamt, or has her curiosity finally led her ever closer to a frozen end?
To lead us back into where we were. Again, Líadáin had made her way up north to the frozen lands of Icewind Dale. And now being in Icewind Dale for quite some time, for a decent amount of time, especially for her as a traveler, she has found herself locked away because of the everlasting rime. So now, Líadáin, you have found work recently within 10 towns, and it is you are working currently at one of the inns and taverns. And this inn and tavern just so happens to be in Bryn Shander, one of the largest of the 10 towns.
Of course it is.
You figure that this is probably the best place to either find opportunities, maybe hearsay about getting out of Icewind Dale somehow. But currently, you're kind of just running in circles, doing basic jobs, stuff that you wouldn't normally be used to, but you've kind of gotten used to the lifestyle here. A little bit.
Well, when there's nothing else to do but cold.
What do you do? Nah, cold, you know.
That's it. It's just cold.
So, I'm going to read off a little narrative to kind of lead us into this. The door to the inn and tavern swings open as a gust of wind and snow blows into the room. A collective groan from the patrons is let out as a shadowed form kicks the excess snow from their fur-lined boots. Struggling to close the door against the forces of the wind, the heavily clothed figure places their back against it, finally latching the door shut. With a lean stature and a face covered by a large wrapping of ornate cloth, the figure unravels their face and reveals himself. Líadáin, what do you look like?
I am a human female with red hair. Once people have told me that somehow I dyed it. It is not dyed. It is all my own. I know others are jealous of it, but it's mine. Right now it's plaited in back because why else would it not be? It's a lot of hair. You don't really like to mess with it. My eyes are blue. I'm about normal stature. I'm about normal build. I'm not big. I'm not little. But in the frozen everything, you really don't want to be one or the other because too little makes you freeze and too big makes you freeze. I'm really bored. I've got bright blue eyes. I don't have any scars or any moles or anything that's really would give me away. I tried to find dried flowers to put in my hair, but it's really difficult here. So if I can find somebody who's got them, I buy them if I've got the cash, but I don't always have the coin.
So, in your arms as you come through the door, you carry a bundle of wood. And you know here in Icewind Dale, wood is not a common commodity. You were asked to gather this wood from one of the traders going out, and you actually had to pay quite some coin in order to do so. From your boss, who you know as Scrimsax. Sorry, Scramsax. Scramsax. He tasks you with jobs here and there. But of course your main passion and your main position here is that of your bardic lifestyle. What would you normally be doing here in that manner if you were to play as a bard?
Well, it depends on the night. I try to keep it different because since there aren't a lot of travelers to 10 towns, you don't really want your repertoire to get stale and for the people not to want to come and see you. So on some nights, I just recite whatever comes into my head. Sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's a story. On some nights, I sing. On some nights, I just play my lute or my mandolin or my fiddle. But it's any one of those. I'm really comfortable on the stage, just doing whatever, really. So it really depends on the night. Tonight would probably be singing, because I really don't feel like telling a story. But if the right coin were to appear, I could definitely tell a story.
Sure thing. After working here at the North Look Inn and Tavern for several months now, you see a number of familiar faces, drowning themselves in mead and attempting to warm themselves near the small fire pit that burns in the center of the first floor. You can see now that the fire pit is kind of dying down, and many of the patrons kind of gather, you see like 2 or 3 people kind of pick up their drinks and move closer to the fire as they sit there and talk. But really, what catches your attention as you place the logs down near the fire, you look over and you see Scramsax, the human owner of the inn, currently trying to settle an argument between what looks like a dwarven man covered in furs, with a bit of his nose missing, obviously due to frostbite, and a taller young woman, dressed in cold weather gear with what looks like a skinning knife on her hip.
What's going on here?
You see Scramsax is literally kind of in between them, like taking his hands and like pushing them apart. The dwarf looks very aggressive, and the woman is kind of just putting her hands up. Scramsax looks over at you. About time you get here. Come over here, help me out.
Oh, friends, what have you got going on?
Look,
I'm
I don't
sure
have time
that
for this
whatever
shit.
what was said wasn't meant.
Look, I don't have time for this shit. I've got a tavern to run. You deal with this. Come see me after you're done with these two.
All right.
You kind of see him saunter off, and you see him like he had his hand on his sword, like ready to go at any second. But he kind of takes it off of the sword as you kind of approach, and he's just like, bah! And leaves them to you.
So, friends, what's the problem?
The little...
If she didn't insult your pretty face, she...
He kind of
It would
looks
be
at you.
difficult to get past faces.
He looks at you with his
I have
like,
a thing for men with scars.
busted nose, you know, of course, like it's missing the tip and it's blackened at the end. And he looks at you and he furrows his brow and he goes, "Bah! This woman! She killed me, friend!"
How did she kill your friend?
You see-
And how do you know it was her?
You see the woman kind of, "Come on! I didn't do anything of the such." "You did! You killed me, friend! You took him on that trip with ye! Nary did return with him now."
Wait,
It was an
a
accident!
trip?
Yes, it was an accident, a hunting trip. We were just on a hunting trip. And look, there was a snowstorm that came in, and we lost track of each other. And I mean, you know, it's a pretty common occurrence here. That stuff happens all the time. Look, I'm not responsible for whatever Morgoth does.
Oh, handsome. She didn't kill your friend.
How do you know
They
that?
got lost.
I saw it in her eyes before she left.
What did she have that? What did he have that she might want? Was he as pretty as you? Because then she definitely wouldn't want to kill him. Why
don't
don't you
know.
just calm down? Let me buy you a drink.
Calm down, me friend is dead. How am I supposed
Easy,
to calm
though.
down?
Do you know that he's dead? Have you seen his body?
He's missing. He didn't come home. He's dead. What else would he be?
True, it's cold.
The woman kind of looks up and she's like, "He's probably dead." Ah, so she admits it. She killed him.
Yes. No, that is not what she said. She admitted that he was dead. She didn't admit that she killed him. Were there more people in this party? How do you know that it was her?
Well, they had made a pact. They had heard about a reindeer or something outside of the city.
There's always something like that going on. You don't actually happens.
Look, I swear it. We saw
People
the
get
reindeer.
lost in the snow all the time.
We saw the reindeer, and before we could even attempt to make a kill, a snowstorm came in. And I don't know what happened to Morgoth after that. We lost sight of each other, and I couldn't find the deer, and I just headed home as soon as I could find myself in the storm itself. Likely story.
It sounds like she was actually concerned for your friend.
She didn't serve no concern to tell nobody when she came back, but come here and have a drink. I came to have a
Well-
drink to mourn.
Yeah, what would you do if you found out that somebody was dead?
I'd avenge the killer.
How
Yeah.
do you avenge the snow?
I
How do you
came
go
to
attack it?
I came to avenge the killer here, and he looks up.
You, Sarah, you know what you did!
Look, I think that you've got another problem, and I don't think this is your problem. And I think that either you can get out, or you can sit down and you can talk this through, because I don't think she killed friend.
You can see she's...
And I was tasked with fixing it. So, considering I get to fix it, you can go, or you can stay, and you can listen to me sing. And I sing pretty well.
So, go ahead and roll
I'll
me
even sing a song for...
Go ahead and roll me a persuasion check, would you?
Yes. First roll with a new dice. That is a 21.
21 persuasion check.
Yes, because that was a 17, and I have a +4.
Excellent. So, the very first roll of the game, above a 20, very nice. Starting it off right. So, as as the dwarf kind of sits there and looks at you and looks at her with his furrowed brow, you see as you speak to him, his brow becomes less furrowed. And he kind of wipes himself down. You can see like soot on his hand kind of wipes across his forehead. And you see that...
I hand him a napkin.
Sarah, he kind of just looks at you and just takes it and like... blows his nose.
Just let it all out.
Sarah, she's standing a good 2 or 3 feet taller than him, places her hand kind of like on his shoulder. And she goes... Morgeth was a good man, Dorgal. It's not my fault. It's these damned lands. You know what happens when people end up alone in the ice and in snow. I know. He was my friend. We worked in the mines together. For years now. For him to go just like that. It's hard to just accept. I'm sorry. What was your name again, lass? He looks up at you, Líadáin.
My name is Líadáin.
My apologies.
There's no reason to apologize. Emotions are big. Bad ones and good ones. I understand.
You see Sarah look over in Scramsax's direction and kind of just do like a roundabout motion. And Scramsax nods his head, pours up an ale, brings it over to the table, kind of rolls his eyes at both of them, knowing what he had just gone through, places it on the table, and they sit down and they begin to have a conversation. Sounds like they're reminiscing.
I'm gonna leave you two for a bit. If you need me, just holler and I'll be around. I'm gonna go talk to me boss for a bit.
Thank you, Líadáin.
Anytime.
You walk over, and Scramsax has made his way back now to the kitchen, kind of like behind the bar, and inside of a small area behind the kitchen, behind the bar. You know, this is where he usually cooks his food, finds his drinks, whatever's necessary that isn't on tap or right up front. And you see Scramsax is rummaging through a large wooden barrel for just a moment, and then before he pulls out like a huge, probably like 3 foot long knucklehead trout and slams it. Shit, hit my mic. And slams it into a large iron grate that sits above a small fire.
Are ya hungry?
Yeah, I wish it was for me, but it's not. Anyways, you know, I never came up with today's meal. What? We got a few meals on the menu. I never came up with today's special. Should it be the knucklehead sandwich, The knucklehead doubt? Or maybe the trout and sprout sauerkraut? What do you think?
Oh, see, I'm always a fan of your trout and kraut sauerkraut.
Ah, yes, the trout and sprout sauerkraut. Well, luckily we have just enough sauerkraut to make it through the night, I believe.
So let's do that one.
Sounds good. You look
What do you need?
Yep, you look over at Scramsax, and he's described himself as a rugged ex-sellsword. But you really find it difficult to believe, with his now protruding gut and very non-confrontational nature at times. He uses you a lot of times to kind of solve any kind of bickering or whatever may occur. But, that being said, you've seen Scramsax grab and use that sword on his hip with extreme grace to settle many of the inn's problems, like here and there. So surprising enough, Scramsax kind of looks over at you. He kind of waves you in a little bit closer to kind of get you to help him with ingredients on the fish.
All right.
He looks over at you and he says, Líadáin, you've been a good help here, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Oh, I know you have a show tonight, so
Gently.
I'd ask you if you could do a few more chores around the place before going and getting ready for your show.
All right.
And he
I guess.
pulls out a scroll, and a lot of things on the scroll you've seen before, but he has check marks by each one of them. And you notice that there are several things that need to be done still. You see that the chunks of ice need to be chopped in order to, make water for the inn, from outside, the large ice blocks that you usually chop down. Mopping and wiping up the tavern needs to take place. Fire tending, if you can go and make sure that the fire is lit still from all the wood that you just gathered. And also the stables out back, they need a little bit of tending, maybe feeding the horses or brushing them or something like that to help tend to the horses. All this stuff is yet to be done. You can partake in any of them if you like.
Well, since I just handled something in the main room, let's not go back in there for now. Why don't I go deal with the horses for a bit and just get out and clear my head before the performance. I like to kind of get centered and get ready when at all possible.
Sure. So, here in Icewind, you would think that they have horses. But, actually, that's being here for quite some time. You are normally tending to what is called an axbeak. Do you have knowledge of what an axbeak is?
I do not.
Okay. Think of a giant dodo, or like a tauntaun from Star Wars, and mix the two, and that's essentially what you get. It's a very scary attack dodo. So,
Yes! Awesome.
you put on your cold weather gear. You have to really bundle up. You wrap your face up like you normally do before stepping outside, and you kind of brace yourself for a moment, kind of sigh, and walk out the back door. And you are berated with just a blast of cold air as you step outside. As you leave the tavern music behind. And,
Just want to leave.
You kind of have to cover your eyes as the snow is blowing in your face. Now it's not like a blizzard or anything like that, but it's just a constant snow. Ever since you got here, after the incident of the rime, the snow has just been constant. Snow shoveling has been a like nightly occurrence every single time, and by the time you're done with your shift, you need to do it again. It is just a constant rate of snow.
Nightly, it's about every hour.
It feels like it. So, as you make your way out back towards the stables, you can see two of your Axbeak friends out there. You've kind of come to know them, and they have slowly but surely come to trust in your presence. You approach one, and you know that these things don't have names, but you could have named one during this time. If you would have, what would be the name for one of these Axbeaks?
So the two that are here are named Luke and Leia.
Luke and Leia. Okay. I like it. Luke and Leia. Alright. So you approach, and of course, Luke is behaving. He always does, he's a good boy. But Leia seems to be like gnawing on her frozen chains or ropes. She seems to be gnawing on them currently.
Oh, darling, what are you doing now? Stop it, stop it.
You approach and she...
I gently as you can, with a giant attack bird, try and get her lead and her halter away from her mouth, because it's not good for her beak, and it's not good for me, because I don't want to chase her down in the snow.
Sure. Go ahead and roll an animal handling check for me.
That one won't be as good. Okay, not with that one. That's a 12.
A 12. Okay. So as Leia is kind of excited about you being there, you can see that she's kind of pushing it up against the wood, and the wood kind of like cracks a little bit as she pushes up against it. She's just really excited to see you. Luke is almost in a nap-like state. You can see him kind of, his neck and head are curled along the side and kind of just resting upon his own back. But Leia is just super excited to see you. And as Leia pushes on the wood next to you, you kind of take a moment to be like, okay, whoa, calm down.
It's alright, it's alright.
And Leia...
I know. I don't like the cold either, but you're better in it than I am. Want a treat? I stole a little bit of trout for you.
You see Leia kind of lean her head down towards you and then like nuzzle your neck for a moment.
Yes, I know. You're sloppy. Hi. I know.
She begins to like dig inside of your cold weather gear.
Okay, yes, I have it. It's right here. Would you like it? Would you like it? Okay, there.
She just flips it up in the air and swallows it down. She has to crunch on it because it's essentially frozen at this point.
It's a popsicle.
And at this time, a very strange occurrence happens not too far off from you, about 100 feet off to your northeast. If you look out towards the northeast, you can see the Bryn Shander gates. There are several gates around town, but this one leads off to the north, and the entirety of Bryn Shander is surrounded by a large palisade of wood and stakes that were carved out of trees to help barricade the city from intruders. This is one of the few cities that are barricaded in such, keeping it safer than the rest, allowing it to grow in size and population for most of the time. But as you look out towards the gate, you notice that there are several figures coming in through the north gate. Coming in from the north gate, you see about 3 short humanoids and 1 taller, normal-sized humanoid making their way through the gate. And as they make their way through the gate, they finally close it up. You see a couple of the militiamen who help guard the gates help close it. And you see the 3 dwarves and the human talking to each other for a moment. But what catches your eye is a bit of sparkling coming from one of the dwarves, as one of the dwarves empties out a good handful of gems into his hand and holds it out towards the taller individual. You see the taller individual kind of nod, say some more things. The dwarves put the gems back in a bag, throw the bag over their back, and start heading southward into the city. All of them, all 4 of them.
Ooh, I want to follow them. Please and thank you.
Sure. So, as they make their way past, you can literally see them walking down the street right next to you. As they approach, they pass right next to the tavern, making their way southward towards the center of the city. You can see now that these dwarves are pretty banged up. You see some of them have lost some digits due to frostbite. You see like noses and ears missing. And one of them looks to be like twitching and scared and like looking up in the air constantly. The taller one is that of a human. You can't see much, of course, because of the cold weather gear. But you see that it is a taller individual. And he has the face of a human at least. And you saw him as he was talking to the dwarves kind of pull down his mask in order to give you such a thought. But as he passes by, you can't really get a good eye on him. Are you trying to follow close, or are you lagging behind?
Hello, friends. Where are you going? Why don't you come to this tavern here? It's much better than wherever you're going.
The dwarves kind of look at you as the other person, the human, kind of just looks on at you, and the human continues just to continues walking, and the dwarves say, "We've got business. If you want business, come meet us at the Black
Where
Sword."
should I meet you?
At the Black Swords. And you know that the Black Swords is the local armorer and steelsmith. And they kind of just bundle themselves up closer, and they're like, "Maybe later for drinks, but now we need to talk about a job." And they just end up giving you like a nod. One of them just like continues to look around, like not saying a word, and the other 2 follow suit, and they make their way down again southwards.
I would like to follow them, not closely, and I would like to be stealthy if at all possible.
Okay, yeah, if you want to go ahead and roll for stealth, go for it.
Ooh, I've never done that low. Only a 15.
Okay, 15. So as you are walking down with the dwarves and the taller humanoid, you see that the taller humanoid has made his way past them like a good 15-20 feet, and the dwarves are trying to catch up to him. And in their doing so, you take that time to kind of stick to the walls, and as soon as you see that maybe one of them turns around, especially the skittish one turns around to like look in your general direction, you kind of just lean up against the wall and mess with your hair for a second, or do whatever it is necessary. And he doesn't seem to take note. He looks back up in the sky and then continues to walk forward southward into the city. And you continue walking down with them until finally they reach the black swords. And the humanoid opens the door. The three dwarves step in. And the humanoid looks out, keeping an eye out to try and see if anybody was there. Enters the doorway and closes the door.
Do I know if the facade of the armor has any windows or spots where I could listen?
You do know that they do have kind of window-esque kind of things. They try to keep out the cold as much as possible. So a lot of these places have either boarded up their windows or insulated them in some way with like furs. So a lot of them have like curtains or furs or whatever blocking windows. But as you approach, you notice that this blacksmith, this area that they use to build and work armor and weapons, seems to be nice and warm and toasty on the inside due to the smithing process. So they don't really keep to the closing of the windows, but you notice that they are way frosted over and are difficult to see through.
Difficult to see through. All right. I would like to... Oh, why not? I want to go up to the door and knock.
Okay. So, you...
Not use knock, but actually knock.
Yep. Walk up to the door and toot 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 in a rhythmic manner. You wait a second. You wait a second. And suddenly the door swings open. Woof! And there, standing there, is one of the female dwarves that was with that group. She looks up at you, and you can see that she's like missing part of her ear. And she has a large scar on her face. She looks at you, she's like, "What do you want?"
Gorgeous, you said I should follow you if I want business.
That was me cousin.
Your party intrigued me. Still, I was told to follow.
Fine. Maybe you can help.
Oh, I'm a useful soul. Tell me what you need.
Come inside. So cold.
Oy, that it is.
As you get led inside, you can see now that this is the Black Swords. The Black Swords has made a name here in Bryn Shander as being that of not so good quality goods. You know that Black Swords is the dollar store of swords and armor here in Bryn Shander. The craftsmen, they seem to be normal people. They seem to be just a normal dwarf and his wife, but they've been known to kind of just push out goods without that good of quality. As you look inside, you can see stacks and stacks of unbought material, just rusty old swords and some shields that are made from makeshift pieces of lumber and whatever metal they could get their hands on. And inside you see the three dwarves have made their way over to a couple sets of stumps that are being used as stools, and unloading a set of gear on the table. You see a small trap that has like a dead bunny rabbit inside of it, and they kind of just place it on the table. And you see that the humanoid takes the rabbit and tosses it towards one of the blacksmiths. And the blacksmith catches it and goes into the back, and you believe to either pay for something or use it to eat or whatever necessary. And at that point, you see the humanoid kind of take off his hood, start to unwrap his face, and that's where we'll end the session.
Bum bum bum!